as we continue to tribute the life and legacy of Abdullah Ibrahim, we now turn to a musician whose own contribution to South African music spans many wholesome decades, from township jazz to soul, to pop, to Afrofusion. Sipho Hotstix Mabuse has been at the forefront of our musical landscape, helping shape the sound of the nation while inspiring generations of artists. Like Abdullah Ibrahim, he has been able to witness South African music evolve through time, see the country evolve through time. But I think what's so important is carrying the stories, carrying the struggle and aspirations through the music. He joins me now in his capacity as iconic saxophonist. I've been waiting all day to say that. Iconic saxophonist. He's a vocalist, he's a composer, and a band leader of the finest quality. Sipho Hotstix Mabuse, such a pleasure to be tributing Abdullah Ibrahim alongside you. Ntate Mabuse, thank you for your time.
Wow, what a praise singer. I didn't know that I have all those
Bona.
qualities and so on. But anyway, thank you so much, and really for the privilege and the opportunity to speak about this great brother, this great mentor, this great wise man, someone that I had the privilege of knowing for so many years. All over the world. I would meet with him. His last 7 performances in exile was in New York, and it was a memorable performance. When I was in New York in 1986, he was performing at Sweet Basil, and it was almost like the following week he'd be coming home. And once again, I was privileged to be the one to go on stage and introduce him along with Hugh Masekela, Abdullah Ibrahim at his first concert in South Africa after 17 years in exile.
That's a beautiful story. I mean, you're telling us a story that happened a little over 40 years ago. And you hold that memories still with so much integrity and so much lightness as you speak about the impact that he had on international stages. But I do want to ask you just about your personal reflections, just in you elaborating on what you just said about Abdullah Ibrahim. When you found out that he is no more, I mean, what first came to mind in him as a human being first before he was a composer?
Well, it wouldn't be fair of me to try and create a story around Abdullah about his life as an ordinary person when I knew mostly about him as a musician.
Right.
A composer, great pianist, and so on. But be that as it may, the little that I knew of him as a person, he was such a an elaborate person who was able to speak about things that many of us were not able to say things. He would always articulate life. He was a philosopher. Abdullah would teach us about things that we thought we knew about ourselves. And over and above that, he was this very, very special person. And I was privileged in a way that I would always, after a performance, go to back room, something that a lot of people were not exposed to, and then would start talking about music. The saddest moment for me when I heard about this is remembering my last conversation with him. I've always wanted to record with Abdullah. I must say that I have worked with almost every musician that matters in this country.
Yeah.
It's a privilege that probably very few musicians have ever had. And Abdullah was the only one that I never really had time to work with. Yeah.
Right, right. But even with that said, you alongside other really iconic musicians in the country hold such a deep and a special reverence for how he has upheld South Africa through his cultural work, through his philosophy, as you mentioned. And we just came out of another conversation talking about, just the philosophy that he holds, and even the titles of the music that he composed. We're still in conversation with the Hotstix Mabuse, Sipho Hotstix Mabuse, and tributing the life of Abdullah Ibrahim. Let's take a break.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Look closer. Listen deeper. This is The Journal with Mmatsheko Mosito on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
9 minutes to go until it is 12 midday in Central African time. We have an Africa update coming through with Lulu Gabu on the other side of the midday news. Hello, Lulu. What's happening?
Hello, happy Friday. I think every South African today has a bit of a bounce in their step after the performance by the Bafana Bafana last night. So a lot coming up today. We're looking at the US imposing visa restrictions on individuals it says are undermining peace efforts in Ethiopia. We'll be unpacking that and exactly what that means. And, these restrictions, how long will they remain in place, and how do they rectify the issues that are being brought to the fore by the US, and we'll unpack that. And then also Ghana hosting a high-level consultative conference on reparatory justice following up on the United Nations General Assembly resolution on the transatlantic slave. So all that and more coming up today.
The Journal with Mmatsheko Mosito.
Right, with just a few minutes to go, we continue our conversation tributing the life of Abdullah Ibrahim with another legendary artist who joins me on the line, Ndate Sipho Hotstix Mabuse. Ndate Mabuse, I wanted to ask you about just the cocktail of genres that Abdullah Ibrahim was able to incorporate in his music. And I know this is a big passion of yours, is really being ourselves in the music, Marabi, township music, heritage, all those big themes coming in. When you think of how he was able to come through with that and come through with Cape traditions of jazz as well, I mean, how do you think of his music catalog holistically when you think about how he was able to approach all of that? Okay, we are going to try and get Ndate Sipho back on the line.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation. Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
5 minutes to go till it is midday in Central African time. Iconic saxophonist, vocalist, composer, and band leader Sipho Hotstix Mabuse continues to join me on the line as we tribute Abdullah Ibrahim, the late great sensei, as many of us remember him as. Dade Sipho Mabuse, let's talk about Abdullah Ibrahim. He drew quite a lot of inspiration, as I was saying in just before we took a break. He drew a lot of inspiration from Marabi, from township rhythms, from Cape musical traditions. How can we better understand what Marabi is and perhaps how it formed such a big part of South African music and the foundations of South African jazz in particular?
You know, it's very difficult to describe certain styles of music as to where it comes from. And but I do believe that someone like Abdullah Ibrahim, perhaps many musicians around like Winston Mankunku, yours truly, all the people that have lived amongst a people who are creative would always find a source of that creativity amongst the people. So because Abdullah came from District 6 and went on to Manenberg and to the rest of the world, so he was able to infuse everything that he came across to create the type of music that he created, and inspired and motivated by the by his own people, his own surroundings. And of course, even when he came up to Joburg and met Barakipi and met Brahu, Barakwangwa, and so on, and where they formed the Jazz Epistles, that in itself was part of his development musically as a jazz great musician. And of course, it never ended there until he went to Zurich, where he met Duke Ellington. The rest is history. Abdullah became this international giant from South Africa, and his roots had always been based on South Africa because it is important, and I think it was critical for him to have an identity with his geographic placement, which was South Africa. As a result, the people that he had surrounded himself with always wanted to learn from him the kind of music that he presented to the rest of the world.
Dr. Mabuse, thank you very much. I think in that response, I'm getting a sense that it is fair to say that Abdullah Ibrahim and many musicians of his generation and all our other ancestors, Bo Brahuma Sekela, Bo Jonas Gwangwa, I mean, I could go as far back as, the other members of the Epistles, Johnny Kiani, for example, and
Yeah.
so many others,
I
that
was just about to say
yeah,
Mongezi Feza, Chris
absolutely.
McGregor, Winston Mankunku goes. The list is endless.
The list is endless. We've just
Yeah,
been so blessed, so blessed.
Philip Philip Tabani and the Malongo
Oh
music,
man.
I mean, you can name. This is probably the only one thing that I want to say is that when I was in Howard College, one professor said to me when I told him I was from South Africa, "Man, you're the only country that can play the blues like us." And I said to him, "We can play even more than what you can do."
Inalilehi wa inai ilahi rajun. Thank you very much. Dr. Mabuse, thank you very much. All the best with your endeavors and would love to have you back on the program. And Dr. Sipho Hotstix Mabuse joining us as we tribute the life of the great sensei, Abdullah Ibrahim. Have yourself a wonderful weekend and thank you very much for joining us for the Friday edition of the program. Cheers.